Wake up! Wake up! Wake up to a happy day. If you guys know who that is or what that symbolizes, then you're already one ahead of me. What's up, you guys? It's Creeper. Welcome back. I am in a different part of town today as what I usually am when I'm doing my cemetery videos. I'm in Southeast Portland today, coming to you guys from Lincoln Memorial Park. That's right, I'm at a different cemetery today, and I'm gonna bring you guys something super awesome. And this is like super Portland, one of the most iconic people ever to live in Portland, and that gentleman is Mr. Tom Peterson. And if you're like, well, who the heck's Mr. Tom Peterson? Tom Peterson was an iconic piece of Portland in the 90s, all the way up until about 2000, late 99. He owned a home electronics store here in Portland and went on to actually do furniture and stuff later on. But what I wanted to bring you guys to his grave today was not only to pay homage to Mr. Peterson, but to tell you more about what he accomplished in his life. Now, Mr. Peterson opened up his first store in 1964, and it did really well. So he was able to purchase more properties in Portland, and his company grew and grew in the 70s. Well, he was known to do really cool and iconic, well, not so much iconic, it's iconic now, but really cool, unusual giveaways at his store. For instance, he would say, come on, he would run his television show, or I'm sorry, his commercials at night. And so you'd be watching TV in the 80s, and I remember seeing, come on down to Tom Peterson's and buy a TV. We got color TVs and VCRs, and he was like the first innovator on buying VCRs that you could actually rent and take home. And at that time, that was like huge because they were really expensive to buy. So Mr. Peterson ran his late night commercials and would give away, you know, watches, free haircuts. He actually had an iconic, kind of like a Buzz Army cut that he called the Tom Peterson haircut. And you couldn't go anywhere in Southeast Portland without seeing Mr. Peterson's face basically on everything. And in the late 90s, he actually developed a second location, which was on 82nd and Foster. And you could ride the Tom Peterson trolley, which was about a 20-person car trolley that would ride on the middle of the road up to the second location where you could get a haircut and check out all the home electronics, which was really cool back in the late 80s. I mean, no one was doing that. He also gave away cool little prizes when you would buy certain items at his store. And when I opened the vlog, when I was saying, wake up to a happy day, that was referencing one of the alarm clocks that he gave away to his guests or customers that would buy a product. And when the alarm would go off in the morning, it would be Tom saying, wake up to a happy day. That wasn't really his number one iconic slogan. He had a lot, but his number one slogan that a lot of people remember, if you remember Mr. Peterson, was free is a very good price. And what he meant by that was he would always give away some sort of prize or extra television or something when you would purchase something at his location. And so that really made him stand out as like the first pitch man for his appliance store, and it made him popular. A lot of people loved going to the locations and meeting Mr. Peterson. He was known to wheel and deal with his guests. And in fact, in 1994, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gus Van Sant, who is a Portland native, went on to do great movies, actually featured Mr. Peterson in two of his movies, Drugstore Cowboy and What Would a Cowgirl Do, or something along those lines. I'm gonna have to go back and do my due diligence that way, but he was a pretty famous, iconic Portland person. So definitely wanted to take you guys up here to his grave, and we're gonna check that out now. And when I came up here, I was very, very surprised to see, well, actually I wasn't surprised to see, I was hoping that he would put his picture on his headstone. So here is the final resting place of the famous Mr. Thomas Howard Peterson is his full name, but I remember him as Tom as a kid. My parents lived in Southeast Portland, about maybe 5-6 blocks from the actual store. So I remember seeing his face everywhere. And there's Tom right there, and his beautiful wife Gloria. And the Petersons had bad luck in the late 90s. They actually ended up filing for bankruptcy, but lo and behold, Gloria had other plans. She actually would save all of the extra earnings and coins and really be frugal with her spending in order to open a second store, if you will, and they would rename it Tom Peterson and Gloria's 2. So she was kind of known to have saved the company back then before they finally had their last day in 2000. So I definitely wanted to take you guys up here and pay homage to Mr. Peterson, who I thought was just such an iconic and really cool Portland guy. He also would use his endorsement commercial money to go ahead and endorse other Portland iconic things that went on to do great things, including Portland wrestling. Mr. Peterson was known to donate lots of money for the funding and to get the Portland wrestling on the map, which was really cool. They would run it late nights on like Portland Cable Access, and eventually I think it was Channel 6 that picked it up for Syndicate TV. But in life there is no security, only opportunity. So that's one of his famous quotes that he went ahead and put on his headstone, which I thought was awesome, because what a great entrepreneur, and honestly what a great Portland story that I can hope live on. And I feel like that's why when I come up to these places to film people's final resting spots, I'm keeping their story and their memory alive. Now if you want, you can get on YouTube and basically type in Tom Peterson, and you will see all the iconic late night commercials that he would run, giving away cool items, and all of his items would feature his face. So basically you couldn't go anywhere in Portland without recognizing or seeing Mr. Peterson somewhere. And look at that haircut. That was super iconic of him. That was the famous Tom Peterson haircut. And there's also another interesting story about Mr. Peterson that goes kind of deep into the Portland iconic history, if you will. Mr. Peterson would give away the watches which would feature his iconic face symbol, and years later Courtney Love was known to have shopped at Mr. Peterson's electronics store, purchasing maybe music or a TV, but she actually received one of the Tom Peterson watches with one of her purchases. Now, I didn't want to show pictures of it because it's kind of not such a good story, but if you guys remember the death behind Mr. Kurt Cobain, him and Courtney actually met in Portland, and if you guys recall seeing the final picture, if you will, of Mr. Kurt Cobain after his suicide or whatever it was, he's actually wearing the Tom Peterson watch in the photo. So I thought that was always interesting, and you couldn't obtain one of those watches unless you actually shopped at Tom Peterson's at one point, or knew somebody that did. And my grandma actually had an alarm clock, a Tom Peterson's alarm clock, and if you guys go back and look at one of my old videos, Portland's Oddities, where I toured the Peculium over in Northwest Portland, they actually have one of the original Tom Peterson alarm clocks in their case in their store. So I'm going to give you guys one more shot here of Mr. Tom Peterson's grave, and we're just going to pay one last final respect to Mr. Tom Peterson and Gloria May as well. And it looked like she passed away October 31st. Oh, I'm sorry, she was born October 31st, 1929, and she basically still resides in Portland. So maybe she can see this and we can get her on another vlog and talk to her more about their time in Portland. But until then, I love you guys, and this is Creeper coming to you guys from Lincoln Memorial, and I'm out for now. Love you guys. Peace.